Hi everyone, Tegan aka Gold Moon Creates here, sharing with you a little video I've created as part of the Design Ambassador team. I'm going to be using some of Nat's collage papers in this project, and what I want to do is use my brand new Art by Marlene White journal that I haven't cracked open yet, and I wanted to create a cover. You know how journals can get quite bulky once you've put a few pages in, so I just wanted to get a cover on before that happened, so I had a nice clean surface to work with. So I'm using Nat's collage paper called Empowered Women. Nat's got some beautiful collage papers, but this one is probably one of my favourites. This will come as no shock to those who know me. Green is one of my favourite colours, and I just really like the way she's positioned and sort of, you know, her stunning pose and obviously all the green. I'm also using Mandala Magic, just one of the smaller ones at the bottom, to go on the back of my journal. So what I love about these collage papers is the colours, right? You almost don't want to do anything to them because they're so bright and beautiful already as they are. So it's kind of a little bit daunting sometimes ripping it, changing it, adding it to a page and putting your own creative flair on it. I'm also using a background black and white collage paper. This one is called Paper Thin Alpha. As far as the black and whites go, I always really love adding words, scribbles, any kind of lettering to my pages and my projects. And I really like this one just because it's not very demanding, it's not overpowering to the overall image, but it's really beautiful handwritten, exactly as the description says, paper thin alpha letters. So I'm adding some of those to the background of the front of my journal here, and I'm going to layer my empowered woman over the top just to give her some to make that focal image. I always was really initially intimidated by using collage papers on my projects, and with some encouragement and support from the beautiful Naomi, she sort of taught me how to do it. Nat has got some fabulous videos on how to use the collage papers, how to use water on a paintbrush to cut them out, so you're not having hard lines with scissors, and some techniques on how to smooth them out with your gel medium. My favourite product to use with Nat's collage papers is the Liquitex gel medium. It is on the more expensive side, but I find it's a lot, just because it's a little bit more runnier, it's not like sort of the thicker gel medium, I find it easier to apply. The other tool I use is a silicone brush that you just saw me using there instead of a paintbrush. Part of that is because I don't have a sink close by to my crafting station, and I've lost a few good paintbrushes because I haven't had time to go and, well, no, I've had time. I just don't like being interrupted when I'm in a creative flow, and I don't want to have to get up and go and wash a paintbrush halfway through a project that can't just be dunked in water. So I found the silicone brush is really handy for getting down my collage papers. It did take me a few goes to sort of learn the techniques on how to use it properly so I didn't get wrinkles, but give it a go. It's also really handy because it's just easy to wipe off. You just grab a wet wipe it off, and she's ready to go again. So if you're the same as me and don't want to be interrupted mid-creative flow to go do some cleaning, give the silicone brush a go. I know Nat's got a few in her shop as well. So I'm just putting down my focal piece here, sort of bit by bit. I didn't want to just cover the whole thing with gel medium and then place her down, because that is how you do get some of those wrinkles. So I'm just sort of doing it in stages. You do have to be careful here. I have accidentally folded one in on itself before, and obviously when I went to pull it back up, it ripped. So you do have to be a little bit careful with this part. So I'm just going backwards and forwards with the gel medium over the top and spreading it out. It has taken me a while to learn. Less is more when it comes to gel medium. You can probably see here I've actually still got too much way down. That is a problem with the Liquitex bottles. Pouring control is not fantastic. It does sort of come out because it is so much runnier. So you do have to be careful. But because I do have too much here, and I've realised that, I'm trying to spread it out a little bit. I believe what I end up doing is getting a brush, going to a big wide Dina Wakley brush and smoothing the rest of it out and getting rid of it. Sometimes it helps to have a project on the side. It is a little bit of a waste of product, which I don't like doing. But, you know, that's how it goes. So just be careful with when you pour in your gel medium. Oh, yeah, here we go. There's my brush. So I'll just smooth that all out. So I'm not creating wrinkles, because you can easily accidentally create wrinkles with your gel medium if you're not careful. So I'll just smooth all that out. Awesome. So what I wanted to do with the page, I didn't really have a plan. I knew I wanted some kind of lettering. I knew I wanted to obviously match the colours within the collage paper itself. And what I really liked is the splatter paint effect in the background. So I've gotten some of my favourite paints, and I'm using an alcohol air blower. I don't know if they have a name other than that. I've watered the paint down a bit, and I'm using that alcohol air blower to throw the paint around in the background and blend that collage paper in. The only thing with a technique like this is you don't have a lot of control. So it's really good to not have an end product or an end result that you're looking for, because you're in control, but you're not in control. So I know that I'm going to put some watered down paint here. I'm going to splat it with the blower. Where it goes from there and what effect it causes is where you don't have control. So it's good to be flexible here and sort of see what the paint does. You can move the book around or move your hands around, as I've just done, to get different effects, to blow it in different directions. You can also really layer your colours using this technique. So you could so I'm starting with a darker colour here. I believe that's Art by Marlene's Azure, which is one of my new favourite colours to use. Naomi convinced me. I've always been a Dina Wakley paint person, and I sort of don't use my Art by Marlene paints very often. But at the retreat, Naomi might have converted me. Dina's paints are still my favourite, but I do now have a few of the Art by Marlene ones that I use on the more regular. So I started with that darker colour. I'm now trying to match the colours at the bottom of the collage piece that are around her shoulders and behind her neck there. So we're going with, I'm pretty sure that's Dina Wakley's Lime. Going to go back up the top with a lighter bluish turquoisey teal. I think that might be Peacock. Dina Wakley's Peacock colour. And you can see now that I've let that azure dry a little bit, I'm now going to layer it up with some lighter colours over the top. And what's really fun about this technique is it does layer. The paint layers really, really well. There's, a translucenceness to it. Is that a word? Translucenceness? Because you've mixed it with water. Paint is not the only way you can make this effect. Obviously, alcohol inks work really well, but Lindy Gang's Magicals, this technique works really well with. So there's some other options for you if you'd like to do something without acrylic paint. So I'm just going to keep adding, and when I sort of get to where the two different shades of colour are meeting, I'm just trying to do an overlap. So I brought the green and actually I don't think I've put yellow on yet, but I brought the green up, and now I'm going to bring the blues back down over the top so they blend together nicely. And here we're going in with the yellow just to sort of get a bit of change of colour down in the bottom area so it's not all green. If I had my way, it would be always all green. So, as I said before, this is one of my favourite collage papers. My other favourite is one called Feathered Face, and I've used that to decorate my Natalie May Scrapbooking DIY journal, and I really enjoyed that. She's a very powerful image, that one. I love sort of the human into beastie nature of it, that primalness of it. So, and now what I'm doing is just putting some yellow splatters around the top to blend all of the background together so it looks like one nice piece. Moving on to some stamping now. There's actually more stamps there than I actually used. I didn't end up using that Kate Crane stamp. I was just putting some options down on the table next to the page so I could see, do I like it? Do I not like it? This one is a darkroom door stamp, abstract circle, something like that. So I'm just trying to offset some black imaging in the background and blend that collage paper through again onto that white cardboard cover. I've already got the Paper Thin Alpha collage paper in the background, but I'm not sure if you can see it, but in the actual Empowered Woman collage sheet itself, there's already some script in the background. So I just wanted to extend that and bring that out a little bit further. So I am using a Funky Fossil, it's a beautiful script stamp. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. I will put all of the products that I used in the comments of this post. So I'm just bringing that script out so it flows up to the top, out to the sides and down to the bottom, again to really blend. I'm also building layers up at this point, so there's lots of interesting things to look at as your eye moves around the page, but still with our empowered woman right in the middle there. Oh, there we go. And you can see I've also not worried about stamping on top of her. If you just have her in the middle and you're afraid to blend your products and your mixed media into her, it's going to be obvious that you've got something stuck on a page. So by stamping over her, bringing some paint over her, you're pulling it all together so it all looks like one purposeful created image. Here I'm using some of my coloured archival inks and a new Vicky Booten stamp set. It had a little paint splodge in there, so I just thought it could be another little interesting, not a focal point, but an interesting little element in the background. Element is the word I'm looking for. So I do this in a turquoisey, tealy kind of colour, and then I bring in a light green as well. Again, just to blend and to synergize all the colours that I've already used. And wiping off my stamp, which doesn't happen often. I think that's only because I was about to, re-stamp with a new colour. So here I'm coming in with a lime green, and I'll bring it down the bottom. It does very much disappear when you put it over the same colour, of course. Excuse me. But, so that's why I'm bringing it up over the blue as well. So again, bringing the bottom colours up, bringing the top colours down. So there's all that layers of blending. Those archival inks are really fantastic, and I'm really glad that I bought the storage case from them as well. Nat sells all of that, of course, but they're really, really handy. I had a lot of trouble storing them before I bought those purposeful metal tin cases, so I'm really glad I did that. Of course, we've got to add some white splattering. So I kind of cheat. Lots of people do their white splatters in different ways. I use Dina Wakley's Gloss white spray, and I put a fan brush in it and just splatter it around. I find that I have personally found that's my simplest way to do it. But also I like the glossiness because it makes the white splatters stand out, especially if you're using a lot of colours in the background. So I knew that I wanted to add a word to the front of this page, and I'm using my favourite Alpha Block stamp by Dina Wakley, and the word I've chosen is focus. I like using the smaller journals for more mindfulness over creativity, I suppose you could say. So I'll probably use this one for when I really want to have a focused moment or a mindful moment. The smaller pages you can complete in a shorter period of time, so there's a bit more of that instant gratification. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes I pull out my big journals when I want to challenge, or when I want to try something new, or if I've got a long time. But I have a full-time job, I've got kids, I look after my father, so I've got a busy schedule most days. So sometimes I just want a nice quick moment to focus in life. So I chose the word focus for my front cover. So I'm using the black archival ink to stamp it up here, just on a little acrylic block. Now I was a little concerned about getting, not the placement correct, but getting a really good stamped image. Obviously it's very difficult to go back over once you've stamped something like this and getting it in the right position. So I did use Nat Sell's apologies again, I can't remember what they're called, but they're like a stamp block. Oh, there it is, I'm using it right there. So I'm pushing it down to give it even pressure along, hoping to get a decent stamp. I lifted it up without removing the placement of the acrylic block, and I was happy-ish with the stamp. It does sort of get lost a little bit. So I was having a look at that going, okay, I'm just going to think about that, and I'm going to come back to it. There are no mistakes in crafting. There are opportunities, there are challenges, but there are no mistakes. So there's always something that can be done to change if you're not happy with the result that's come out on the page. The stencil I'm using here is my hands down absolute favourite stencil. It is called Twisted Yarn. I use it a lot and a lot and a lot and a lot. And I generally always only ever use it as a black, to bring some blackness into a page, exactly as I'm doing here. Can't tell you why I like it so much. I'm a crocheter, maybe that's why I'm connected to it. But I like the effect that it gives. I like that you can layer it in sizes. And I believe this one I think this one was designed by Naomi, which makes sense to me. So yeah, it is absolutely hands down one of my favourites. I've got, you'll probably hear me say that a lot though. The thing I'm using at the moment is my favourite. But I do use that stencil a lot. So now that I've done some stenciling, I've thought about my stamp and what I'm going to do. So I've just grabbed a Life of Colour paint pen. I'm going to outline the letters and I'm going to fill it in just to bring that blackness up a bit more. So basically I've used the archival ink as a bit of a guide, and now I'm going to fill it in with a paint marker just to give it more depth and more darkness to the actual letters, so they stand out a little bit more, because they did the background very much overwhelmed them here. But again, this is the great thing about crafting. There's usually a solution. It's an opportunity to be creative, to be challenged, and to think about the products that you've got and how they can be used in all sorts of different ways. I never would have been able to freehand the word and be happy with it. I think we're all our own worst critics, aren't we, of our own handwriting. I look at everybody else's pages and think, oh, they've got beautiful handwriting. And they often say to me, no, I don't. It's horrible. I hate it. And then I go and do the same back to them. Oh, I hate my own handwriting. I know Claire is big on challenging people. And I think Neve too. Just be brave. Just write it. And one of my favourite sayings from Nat is, it's just paper. It's just paint and paper. There's nothing that can't be fixed or changed or corrected. And absolute worst case, you can cover the whole thing and start again from scratch. So here I just want to make my twisted yarn stenciling pop a bit. I'm sure you've all seen this technique many times. So I'm using a white paint pen to do a double line around each of those leafy kind of patterns. My kingdom for a wonderful white pen, right? It's the Eternal Struggle. This one is an old pen, so I did have a lot of trouble with it. And I believe halfway through I switched over to a gel pen just because it was really irking me every couple of lines having to do that. Yeah, there we go. I think I'm using a gel pen there. So that's the Uniball Signo gel pen. I find the Uniball ones are pretty good. I can be impatient and I sometimes don't let my paint dry properly, and I've probably ruined many a good gel pen going over paint when it's still wet. So the drier your paint, the longer your gel pens will last you. So don't be impatient like me. So I'm just giving it a double line. So, if I mess it up, it looks more purposeful. I also really like the grungy look too. I'm not really one of those picture perfect, everything's got to be in the right lines, have to be straight kind of artist. I like a bit of grunge. I like a bit of realness to it. I also like that they're not uniform, because what in life is perfectly symmetrical or uniform? Every leaf is different. No leaf is perfectly rounded or oval at each side. So I think it looks more genuine as well when you've got a bit of quirkiness for your lining and outlining. So I'm back with the paint pen. I'm giving it another go, just because it does for me come out as a brighter white. And now I'm going to outline, go back to my lettering, and I'm going to outline it in white and the letters. I'm happy with how it turned out ultimately in the end. There are a few of my lines that, because my paint pen is coming to the end of its life and I don't have another one yet, I'll have to put an order in. So I think that line right there, you can see the thickness of it up on that right side. It did annoy me a little bit, but it's okay. It's something I can live with. So coming to the back of my journal now, and I've taken the rest of that thin alpha collage paper, and I'm completely covering the back of my journal with it in its entirety. So as I said, I really love using words. I love using book paper, anything that's got words, letters on it. I'm a big reading nerd, so that's probably why. So I'm just using that Liquitex gel medium again to brush this on. Obviously my collage paper is bigger than the actual back surface of the journal, so I've made sure I've got a decent layer underneath, and I'm going to put that gel medium over the top and then just use a water paintbrush to rip it down to size so it's all nice and uniform. I'm sure I'm getting my... Oh, I don't know if you can hear. That's my dog snoring in the background. If you can hear that, I apologise. He's having a good little snooze next to me. He often lays at my legs while I'm crafting too. And I love the ambience of a dog snoring. So I'm just using a bit of water on a thin paintbrush just to trim those edges off there, to get a nice uniform look on the back. So because I had such a busy focal front of the journal, I wanted to do something a little bit more simple on the back, but in the same style, because you want your back and your front to have synergy and connection. So we're using the same collage script in the background, and we're going to do a similar paint effect using the Mandala Magic smaller mandala one. There's 3 mandala ones that you get on that collage page, and for the price point, that is very, very generous. So they're really good quality, they're really good value, all of the collage papers. So here's some of my Dina paint in Nat's Fabulous paint holders, which they've also been a lifesaver. So I used to keep my paints in like a $2 tub from Kmart, and they were sitting not upside down, like the right way up, and they got clogged. Oh, not all of them, but the ones I used more often kept getting clogged over and over again. Haven't had that same problem since buying these from Nat, because the paint keeps down in the nozzle, it keeps it wet. So if you've been wondering, are they worth it? I'm telling you, they are worth it. I need 2 more to fit all of my Dina paints, but at the moment I've got the ones I use more often than not in both of those. So I took my collage paper and laid it down next to my paints to try and match the closest colours that I could that I was seeing in the collage paper, because we want, again, to blend it. We're not trying to add colours, we're not trying to change the colours, we want synergy. So I'm throwing my, I'm gently gel medium my mandala right into the middle of the back page there. And just as we did with the focal piece on the front, we're going to use that alcohol blower, we're going to water down our acrylic paint, and we're going to do that paint splatter effect, going from the middle of the back of the journal, from that mandala, splashing out. Something I will mention, on the front page, because I had the thin alpha script collage paper as the bottom layer, when I put my Empowered Girl over the top, you can see some of the alpha writing coming through her face. I wanted that effect. It was a purposeful choice that I made, but you might not want that. You might not want your focal image person to have writing coming through the back of their face. So if that's the case, you'd put your first layer of collage paper down, you'd add some gesso, some white gesso over where that person's face is going to be, or where you don't want to see it coming through, and then you gel medium over the top. But I just thought I'd let you know, for me, it was a conscious choice. I wanted that writing to come through her face. I did it the other day as well with some of the new collage papers. I started with music sheets, and then I didn't use white gesso. I put her straight over the top because I wanted those music notes to come through onto her body. So for me, that was a conscious choice. So got my acrylic paint out. I wet it down. Obviously, the more water you add, the more liquidy it is. Go figure. But also, the duller, I suppose, the paint colour comes out. So it's just something to be mindful of. At one point, I also I mix the orange and one of the blushing colours, I believe. I think it was blushing, together to sort of make a mid-mouldy peachy colour, just to help add to that transition. Actually, I think that's the colour I'm using right now, is the one I mixed. Yes, it is. So I just started down at the blue, and I'm going to work my way around with my paint. It's kind of awkward to hold the blower and the paintbrush at the same time. I'm not sure about you, but I'm not very good with my non-dominant hand, which for me is the left. So manipulating the air blower with my left hand was really difficult. So I had to keep putting the paintbrush down. So here's an example of where impatience is not a great thing. I'm using two colours here that when they mix together, they create mud. So you can see right just near where my paintbrush just was, there is a little brownness there. I'm not too unhappy with it. I could have immediately wiped it off and fixed it if it was really going to concern me. It doesn't. Brown is still a colour. It's part of the colour rainbow, the colour spectrum. It didn't really bother me that much. But lesson to be learnt. If it's something that is going to bother you, make sure each colour is dry before you add the next layer, so you don't make mud yourselves. I also wasn't too concerned because if you look closely at the mandala, there's actually a little bit of, not brown, but like deep tones in where that red comes into that green that could be construed as brown. So it didn't bother me so much, and it's not a giant brown splotch in the back of my page. So I just left it and kept going. I wasn't concerned at all. I'm also just adding some splatters now. You can see I left on my watery paint on my messy mat there. I'm just adding the splashes. It's another element, it's another layer, and it also helps blend the colours into each other. I don't like wasting products. I have always, and I mean always, got a set of Natalie May's tags on my desk somewhere for when I have leftover paint, for when I have leftover product that I don't want to waste. So you can see here, I'm just pulling the tags through that watered down paint. And I will come back to those tags another time, and I've already got a semi-background started. You have all probably noticed by now I am somewhat obsessed with tags. I never used to do them when I first started mixed media and art journaling. I sort of didn't see the point in them, but when I started, oh boy, could not stop me. So adding some more white splatters to the back of the journal now. Again, that's the Dina Wakley Gloss splatter spray. And here we have it. That's my front cover. You can see that writing coming through her face that I was talking about before. And that's it open together. If I had thought more about it, I would have tried to make the spine synergize a little bit more. But overall, I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. And I encourage you all to cover a journal. And I look forward to seeing what that looks like. Until next time.